welcome to another FACEHAMMER show. And we're going to talk about S&M or Slaanesh.
Well, it's been all sadism, no masochism, or the other way around, hasn't it?
You like, I
For
think.
2 years.
Depends on your preference.
Yeah. Unfortunately, everyone's dead. You know, there's been that much abuse that the bodies are rotting, Nurgle's growing mushrooms all over them, and all the people who needed saving are dead. So, we're going to cover it.
We're going to revisit Hedonites. We're not going to go into like super detail, but there's been quite a lot of big news today.
This is a shift.
Which we're going to cover. But also there was a White Dwarf update, which came out in, I think it's White Dwarf 476, which is a couple of months ago, which sort of snuck in, but nobody really looked at it because it's Slaanesh. But actually now, with the changes in the GHB, so people who don't know, there's been an article in Warhammer Community, and what they've done is they've decided to put digital points. So let me show you this. So we have.
So what do we do with our little general's handbook?
Put it bin.
Okay.
So 3 points updates for Warhammer Age of Sigmar as we march into a new season is the article. So it talks about the new pitch battles. Season 1 is up to pre-orders, and basically they've got this download the pitch battle profile. And basically that's the points. They're going to be in the app and they're going to be available as a PDF going forward. So as things change, I'm hoping the PDF will be like the most up-to-date thing. But it should mean that maybe there can be more frequent adjustments because they're talking about quarterly battle scroll updates.
So this is the first place you check when you're trying to work out how to build your army. Is this?
I think as long as you just need to know, did your army book come out after, like, did it come out after this or before? So if this is released now, and then like your army book comes out next month, then obviously the army book's going to be the most up to date. So a little bit, you're going to need to know a little bit of like the order, but yeah. So I don't know if they'll update it as they release books. I hope they do, but the app should be up to date. There's also, for people who've been on social media, there's been lots of rules updates on the app, which haven't been communicated in like a overview PDF yet, but they're on the app.
There's no wiki notes version of it.
I'm assuming there will be.
Hopefully.
Maybe.
It's a lot.
And we will cover that when it happens. But just to give you like a few of the highlights, there's been a change to like OBR, Stalkers can be battle line, Khorne blood type doesn't reset to 0, Coalesced rule only applies to Saurus, Kroxagor, and monsters, not skinks. The dragon hero phase abilities changed, the shooting holy commands changed, loads of things like that. Bone splitters have got a new rule, so 6 to hit do 2 hits, just generically across the army. So lots of changes, but until it's kind of in a one-stop place, that's when we'll talk about it, because it's a lot easier for us to capture the changes and discuss them and show them on the screens.
Hopefully we should end up with like a 2 tiers for the viewers, where you can come to us for your news, and we've taken it from the most digestible format available currently, and then we're making it even easier and we're wiki notesing it. So we realize and appreciate there is a lot of stuff coming out at the moment. So feel free to use us as a resource for starting your discovery of the 7,000 things that have changed in the last month.
Yeah, and if you join our Discord, then that's a good way to interact with people.
Questions there. Absolutely.
Put rules questions in there. The community there's pretty good at answering stuff, and so we've had quite a lot of new members over the weekend, and obviously I think quite a few new people on the channel. Thank you to all those that have subscribed or that have checked us out, and hello, welcome. Hopefully my zooming in and out isn't too annoying, and my noises I make with my mouth isn't too annoying, or my opinions aren't too meh as some of the comments have been.
Russ, but we need to sort my microphone out. Get me one as good as yours.
You mean the same one?
Like, it's the same one?
Yeah, okay. Anyway, that's those comments.
We have moved it around though, so being a bit facetious here, but this is close to me because people mentioned it. So
I think as well it's different because my microphone is directly recording, whereas Byron's is over the
Via
internet,
the internet,
and it's not. It's what Discord is giving me, so it's not necessarily the same.
It's Russ's Tesco 2 meg. That's the issue.
It's really not my internet.
Tesco 2 meg.
I'm sure there's a way to record direct input from your microphone using some fancy software where I can have nice windows and everything, but I don't know, and I don't have enough time to look into that. So if anyone knows anything about that, you can put it down below. Or not use it as
Probably doesn't have enough patience to describe it to me, who is way worse than him.
This is the other issue. I'd have to actually like educate you how to connect to something, and
I wasn't made for education, Russ. I mean, we both know that.
You're not a techie person.
I'm not educatable.
You are not. You're not educated. You went to university. It's fine. So anyway, Hedonites. So we're going to talk about the White Dwarf update. So it's White Dwarf 4.
Should we preface this because there are new people to the channel? So if we make any references about them having had various opportunities in the past, Slaanesh have been crap since they came out, broadly speaking. And we're not saying that from an uninformed standpoint either. Like, I played the living shit out of this army, like tons, while it was bad and while there was a lot of hard stuff out there. So, going to events and doing my best, aiming for like 3 wins, that type of stuff. So there's been quite a long time with the book being having potential, being overcosted is the largest critique that people had of it. And there's been various opportunities that, because of schedules and stuff like that, it's never come out in the wash. And in fact, they actually went up in points at the first point they needed to go down. So the points you see in your Slaanesh book are not the ones that people are using currently. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they're about to get closer together.
So they came out about, I want to say, like they came out just before AOS 3, right? Or before the generals, the AOS 3 points adjustments. So when they dropped, the points at the back of the book, everyone thought they'd be expensive. And then when the handbook and AOS 3 rolled round, there was like a flat increase.
%ish?
Where they'd been taxed because most things went up, but they were already overcosted, so it felt like a double whammy. Then
they're a fragile army. Not some of the stuff that we'll cover a bit more today. Like, it's nice that that's being brought into the realms of affordability points wise, but especially the demon stuff, like it doesn't survive very well. You have to play it very well. Like Chaos Deepkin, is that an all right?
Yeah, that doesn't shoot very well, I guess.
Yeah, they should shoot better,
and doesn't really have the resiliency you can build into Deepkin. I suppose you could, because you got access to Chaos Warriors and stuff, haven't you? So you can get some armor save. But yeah, so that was then rolled up into December update. Nothing really happened. The White Dwarf, I think, came out in like March this year. It was 3 or 4 issues ago. So it's like, there's been a change there, which is a boost, and obviously the new
boost, but they're still so expensive. People just didn't really.
Well, no one really clocked it, right? So, so now we're at a point now where I think there are some competitive lists almost there. There's still a lot. Don't get me wrong. There's still an awful lot in the book that internally is not balanced at all. Doesn't work.
This is not Beastmen update. And like
this isn't
like,
just
like C to S. Let's go. Yeah.
But even Beastmen don't. The balance isn't there.
No, not internally.
So let's talk about the update. So let's just talk about, we're going to talk about match play only. So there's a lot of narrative-y stuff in here. Path to Glory, whatever it's called. We don't cover that. So if you're interested in that, you can pick up the White Dwarf or talk to people who care. So,
it's really good. We don't have time for that. It's not how we engage.
It's
in the
just
hobby.
not how I play the game. So the way I play the game is tournament play, match play. So that's what we talk about. So it's not to say that that's not a valid thing, but I don't want to talk about something I don't know about. So
Slaanesh haven't been a valid thing in match play for a long time.
So they have received some bonuses at events for points and things like that, and they're still limped along. So this update that we're going to talk about is the White Dwarf, but we're also going to talk about the pitch battle profile update, which is essentially, if you take the right units, you're saving like 400 or 500 points on your army, which is huge.
Awesome.
So Revel in Pain is a new battle trait. So you gain depravity, as you know, and you can use it to summon units. Now, what they've done is they've put a ability in that if you have depravity, it gives you a bonus on your army. So if you spend the points, it will lower your pool and you won't get the bonus. So you have to decide, do I lower the points by summoning a unit and then I don't have this buff, or do I just keep the buff? And There are some good ones here. So the first one, if you've got 6 depravity, and this kind of plays into a mortal themed army because you're not necessarily wanting demons. And it basically says if a Hedonites of Slaanesh unit receives the rally, you can return a model on a 5 instead of a 6. So it's on a 6 or more depravity, which is fairly easy to get because you get depravity for every unit that's either wounded or lost a model in the turn, yours and theirs. So obviously shooting helps. Things like the Thane taking damage on that, an endless spell for your army, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
The fact that you rally on a 5 instead of a 6 is quite big if you've got big
It's
units
helpful.
of Twin
And
Souls, Painbringers.
It's the first one as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, you're going to clock it up the fastest. I think historically, Slaanesh struggle to ratchet up turn 1. It's very often turn 2 where you start building this stuff up. So you're going to need a tiny bit of patience. Because splitting your fire isn't that reliable if you are trying to do stuff at range.
And the other good thing you can do is stuff like there are characters like Sinessa who's got board wide spells
Pokes
and stuff like that, and you've also got it's got a good shooting attack, does mortals. You've also got ways to ally in because allies, they're still units that have taken damage or lost models. The unit can't be dead; it needs to be alive, but it needs to have like still survive, but then take some damage. So there are ways of gaming this a little bit, even like damn terrain and things like that. So you can
allowing a spell for your own army if you really want to commit to it. Particularly cheeky one is in the Nurgle book. There's a load of things that damage things close by in the hero phase or stuff like that with mortals. So if you're willing to really take a few chunks off, you can drop 210 points on
Lord of Afflictions with the Incubatch, right? I've never seen any Nurgle player actually roll for their Incubatch on their own units ever. So I don't take it because you always forget, right?
On a 6 for Nurgle, but it's a 2+ for other stuff, so that's pretty reliable if you are looking to damage yourself and ratchet this stuff.
2? I thought it was on a 4.
It's I think it's add 2 to the roll if there's a.
Yes, it's on a 6 and add 2 is a 4.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's a 4 up, but it's still good because if you had like 4 units around it, so
exactly, and you just start them clustered and then cloud out after gaining a couple of depravity, which is a big deal.
Yeah. Then there's also things like the Ogre Void Fermitage, whatever his name is. There's Crusher. He can blow up terrain anyway. Yeah. So then you've got, if you get to 12 depravity, you get 2 inches of extra movement on your army.
It's nuts.
Just good.
Bloody fast anyway. It's a really quick, it's one of the quickest foot armies in the game. So yeah, +2. That gives you some. That makes one of the 2 elites that we're going to discuss later. Is it Twin Souls have got a vanilla move of 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10-inch move. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then we've got friendly Hedonites of Slaanesh have a ward save of 5 up once you get to 18 depravity.
Big deal. Like, huge. Really big. They are fragile AF. That is absolutely colossal.
Yeah. So that's the ability. Now, it sounds... What's quite nice about this is the timing. So you spend your depravity at the end of the movement phase, but obviously you gain depravity at the end of the turn. So if you know, say you're sat on like 15 points or whatever, and you know that you're probably going to damage 4 or 5 units, you can probably spend down a bracket knowing that by the time it gets around to your next turn, you could have the +2 movement back. Or you can manage the ward once you get above a certain level.
It's nice resource management, isn't it? Without being too complex as well. You've only got 3 things to be mindful of. You've got some counters there. You take them down to the minimum. It's not too much bookkeeping for something that's been added.
What I like about it as well is that if you don't, and this is more of a hobby thing, if you don't want to paint a load of summoning, you're still getting a bonus in your army. A bit like in Khorne with Blood Tithe.
That's a legit point.
You're not having to paint buckets of demons if you don't really want to, or you're just starting the army.
2,000 points
and a benefit.
Like 2 commonly used options would be like, that's fine for now. Yeah.
And it trains you into playing around depravity. So it's like it's still viable, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a nice change. Now the other thing are grand strategies and battle tactics. Now we know the new handbook is quite difficult to achieve. these things. So grand vanities is a grand strategy. So when the battle ends, you complete this if there are no enemy units with artifacts of power on the battlefield, and there are one or more friendly units with artifacts of power on the battlefield. So this is simply kill their hero, keep yours alive, which actually
kill their non-unique heroes.
Yes. So actually, like, I think it's, when you look at the others, it's quite a good one.
Yeah.
Because you know what your target is. So what's got the artifact, that's my target. It can't be Archeon, it can't be Ilario, it can't be anything of these really hard to kill characters. It's going to be like the Chaos Sorcerer or the Slopody with the Arcane Tome or something like that. So it's like fairly straightforward.
It is. It pushes you, like, you don't have particularly high quality shooting. So if someone does want to deny this and has a character that doesn't need to be in the thick of it, or can be in the thick of it and is indestructible, like, your opponent's going to be able to clock this and play around it fairly well, I think. The real thing is just how survivable that hero is. That's what it depends on. You can rock up to the table. If it's a squishy elf, great. You know, you don't care if it's got lookout, so you just plow shots into it until it's dead and you got it and you killed something anyway, and that's great. If it is like a, don't know, like 18 wound after save, high armor save thing, might be a bit more tricky.
Yeah, but even then, like, people are going to want to use that. So if it's a Maw Crusher, they're going to want to be in your army in combat and stuff like that. So I think if you look at the generic ones in the handbook, it's actually not a bad choice.
No, it's about on par. I also like that it's kind of thematic. Like, it plays into something you should be doing anyway. It's not, needlessly complex or tricksy. So I think it's quite nicely weighted. I just don't think it's.
Oh, it's not an auto really.
It's
easy.
rock paper scissors-y, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but I think it does disrupt your opponent a bit if they want to use that hero aggressively or in combat, because it kind of like disrupts.
Yeah, just cry if you see a great unclean one. Soz peeps.
Nah, it's fine. Easy to kill those. I've never had an issue. Methods of torture is the battle tactics. So you've got death by 1,000 cuts. So pick an enemy unit, complete this tactic if wounds caused by attacks made by 3 or more different friendly units are allocated to that unit in this turn. Actually, not that hard.
You're fast. You can deliver your stuff.
You do 1 wound through, because you don't have to pick the unit. So if you've got a couple units that shoot, you go, right, I'll shoot the bliss barbs at it. I'll shoot another unit of bliss barbs at it. I'll use Sines's stick. I'll charge it. You know, like, you can probably do it. Like,
you can also
reliably.
You can have the shooting unit in a position where if they don't get the shooting, maybe they go for the charge, and then you all out attack and try and squeak a wound through out of desperation.
Or you just have a different unit nearby that you're going to charge it with anyway. So like you don't need to, doesn't have to be the same unit. So you can.
No, Slaanesh armies often have quite a lot of different units in them anyway. They haven't been big blobs. That might change, but they haven't been big blobs at all historically. It's basically minimum unit size all across the board.
Then you've got Enrapturing Blur. So pick an enemy hero that has no wounds allocated to them. You complete this tactic that unit is destroyed in the combat phase this turn before it fights.
Cool. I like the writing behind that. Again, that depends what your opponent turned up with. It's a good option to have.
I mean, if you know you're going to charge something and you're going to really want to kill it and you're just leaning into that, then
you got
it's
some
not
seekers
a bad
on the table
option.
and they've got a wizard. Yeah, just going to lick it to death.
And then you've got the Grand Feast. Complete this if you receive 12 or more depravity points this turn.
Hard.
That's very hard, yeah.
Really hard. So you need to, yourself and your opponent, have 12 things wounded but not killed in the same turn. If your opponent has turned up with certain armies in the game, that's just mathematically going to be impossible unless you suicided your army in. With Slaanesh, that is a bad idea. So, that's quite a tricky one.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a way to game that with your own army and endo spells and things like that. Where you could
make it more likely.
You could churn a load out of your own army and then try and chip on them. So
you can get like between 4 and 7 depending what you're doing.
Still
From when
a
I was
lot,
writing
that,
some
isn't it?
janky lists, but then you need 5 from your opponent if you get the top end of your stuff, and you might make your after saves. They're not optional. So
yeah. Well, anyway, I don't think that one's very good, but at least the other two are.
No.
I
Yeah,
think
they're
you
all
only
right.
need one or two that you can do in a game that makes
Yeah.
the game, because the Galatian veteran like new ones, then they're hard, but you only need one or two to fill the gaps to be able
Yeah,
to do 5 in a game.
you do.
And
There's
I
a
think
side note.
those
I'd like
two
it.
work.
I'd like it if people had the same amount in books. Like, why is this not standardized? I know
Yeah.
this isn't a book, but just like give everyone 4, or everyone 3, or everyone 6. Because people are just going to feel butthurt.
Yeah, I mean, like, it'd be nice if there was a standardized
Mental
format
that there isn't
for everything,
like
like artifacts, command traits.
Hello, Skaven Battle Tome of Confusion.
I quite like that though, because there's lots of options. 4 grand strategies. I think there's even 5 actually. Why not?
Yeah, why
but
not?
There's 4, one for each clan. It's just bizarre, but anyway. Yeah, so that's the battle tactics and the grand strategy. So not amazing, but Slaanesh always struggled with the grand strategy, so I think that one's all right.
Anything is, yeah. They really do struggle. So
then we've got some battalions. So we've got the Epicurean Revelers, which is loads of demons.
Yeah.
Which gets unified and slayers. But I don't think you'll see that very often. I mean, it's only 2 units of demonettes if you just want demonettes. Like, it's 2 demonette units, and so you could just have 2 demonette units. But with Galatian veterans, bounty hunters, I'm not sure you're going to see it, because you might be.
You didn't see them anyway.
You're not going to see. I mean, they have gone down in points, and I think demonettes in bounty hunters, like a 30 in bounty hunters, would actually be quite scary. But yeah, no.
Units of attack, isn't it?
Then the other one is the Nobles of Excess, which is 2 to 3 Painbringers and 1 to 3 Twin Souls. Now, this gives you expert, so you can all-out attack or all-out defense without the command being issued or without it being spent. Now, this one, again, probably not going to see, purely because of veterans, the 2 new ones for the Galatian veteran things, because they'll be battle line and then they're going to be veterans, so then they'll be bounty hunters or they'll be triple capture power.
Yeah.
But the infantry are viable, so it might become more useful later on.
You can only have them once, can't you? So if someone's going balls deep on like MSU with these, maybe you do go for it. But
I mean, you could have for example, you could have like these units in the Nobles of Excess and then have different formations. But yeah,
and make these guys battle line or not as well for flexibility. So
but now, so that's the White Dwarf update. So formations, whatever, they're not really that important, but the Revel in Pain and the strategies and stuff. So it's okay.
That little table of 3 things is extremely important.
Yeah,
Ward, move, and rally.
The rally, especially if you're going to start taking big blobs of infantry. And because of that, we have an update, which is the PDF of the points. So, as we explained, you've got some nice drops in here. So, Bliss Barb Archers are finally, I'd say they're probably still a little bit overcosted, but they're 140 points, not 170. So, finally, they're in a more usable point cost. Demonettes are now 130, which we knew anyway when we did our last show. The one other thing that we talked about, which you think is a bit strange, is Sigvald's points.
We've had a chat about this, haven't we? And we're trying to work out whether it's just me being a beaten puppy, but that feels like a bargain.
So he's 205 points.
So the most he's ever been is he started at 260, went up to 265, which felt pointless. But in my head, like, he's not a 220 or less points model. Having discussed other models though with output, I don't know, but it feels really like that's a lot of damage output on a small base. With a 4-up after save and a 3-up armor save. 8 wounds?
6.
Or is he 6 wounds? 6 wounds, so
12-ish. I think what was interesting is you were saying, oh, he's really cheap, and that's because at 260 you were like, or 265, whatever he was at some point, you were like, oh, he's just actually good in my army, he's the best points for what he does. But I'm like, yeah, but it's in Slaanesh, so he's overcosted. He's just
Take 15%
not
off
Slaanesh
that.
overcosted. So I think that 205 might be a little bit on the cheap side, but actually he's only a
like
6 wounds foot hero,
or something else that's like damagey that isn't.
that even like
doesn't fly.
Celestin, like guy on a Dracoff, whatever it's called, you know, or Lord of Afflictions, or you know, the Achillean
he doesn't
King,
come with his own rules that are like deploy off the table. He's quick, but he's not like insanely fast or anything.
And I just think like he's about that, and I think that it's nice to see him drop by 60 points, because like that's a big saving. If you take him, that's 60 points suddenly in your list, which normally wouldn't make a big deal, but
huge.
Then the Lord of Pain's gone down 15, so he's down to 140.
Like is that all right for him? Because
I think he should be like 110. Like if I'm honest, like if you look at like the Thrall Master or the Gladiatrix and things like that in order, like the Thrall Master's 110. He's got an AoE thing. It isn't a command point, but affects all thralls.
Yeah.
He's about the same combat profile. He's got a worse save, but you know, you're like,
he's not
very much
the Gladiatrix, and it's a joke. But let's throw her out the window because she's a meme. But
So I think if he could be 120, you know, 110.
Yeah. Around that
easy,
15,
but still 15 points off again. So that's another saving. But what the important thing with him, he does unlock battle line for Myrmidon Painbringers and Twin Souls. Now these have had a huge drop.
Finally, like these have stepped into viability, so people can actually start buying them now.
So your Painbringers are 120 points for 5.
It used to be 145.
Yeah, and I think before that they were even 160.
They were.
And they get +1 armor save, not reroll save. So if you're looking at the book's slightly out of date for the errata. You need to look at that. And they're, you know, 2 attacks, 3s, 6s to hit, do mortals, but they're only 1 inch reach. But they can be Galatian veterans. If they're Galatian veterans, you don't care about the reach because you've got the rule where you can support fight.
Little 10 blob is
10s of these rallying on a 5 if you've got the depravity, I think are going to be super solid. They are more than likely going to stick around and not be wiped out in a 1er. So 240 points for 20 wounds with a 3-up armor save in any phase without spending a command point.
Talking about normal Warhammer stats here now.
This is, you know, and then that's, so they for me are solid battle line units, especially when you can put them in veterans and go, they're going to count as +1 damage. So you could literally write a list which is like 10 of them, 10 of them, 10 Twin Souls, all at +1 damage in bounty hunters, and then put bliss barbs in the count as 3 models on objectives. So that's 33 capture power, because there's 11 in the unit, which is weird but cool, because you can actually if they've got a 10 infantry in that formation, you beat them because you've got 11.
Your little guy with his drums is doing some
homunculus is doing some work. So
I think 5s of these are also not bad, and in that situation I don't, you know, they don't have to be battle line, you don't have to take the dude with them. It's just a little fairly resilient wall to put in the way that's going to be a bit more survivable than other options in the book.
And if you don't want them to be veterans, you don't need to.
Exactly, yeah.
Because you can just not take the Lord of Pain, and then you can take Bliss Barbs as your Galatian veterans, and then these guys can just be bounty hunters and not get +1 damage against them, so it makes them even more resilient. So
exactly.
Give you some options. I also, the Twin Souls now are 130, not 140.
They were 165 prior to this.
So they were 170 originally, weren't they? Then they dropped 5, I think, and then passed. But anyway, they're 130 now, so they're pretty solid. And they've got the
these guys have an interesting and weird profile. Feels very Slaanesh-y. So these are the super. Are these the ones that have the 2 aspects?
Yeah, so they've got a 2-inch reach at damage 2, and this might be why you'd want the Painbringers to be battle line, but not these guys. Although you don't
Yeah.
get a choice. It's just they are right. So
Yeah.
yeah, so you don't get a choice, unfortunately. With Skaven, you can choose because they're cool.
2-inch reach, 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, no rend, damage 2, and you can alternate between the abilities that you pick in the combat phase, which is reroll hits, which is +1 now, isn't it? Or do you
No, it's
get
still
to
reroll hits.
Still gets reroll hits. That's pretty reliable on 4s, and a 5-up. A 5-up after save. So these guys can have an after save before you've clocked it up for your army, which isn't a bad option.
For me, one of the biggest things is the movement 8.
Oh, I mean, which is frequently going to be 10 if you're playing for that. 10's great. 10's nuts.
I really like the Painbringers because with the Lord of Pain, you can give them reroll hits as well.
Yeah,
and they do 6s on 6s to hit. They do mortals, and then if you've got a Shard Speaker, she's got an ability that gets you +1 to wound on a 3-up if you pick something.
Yeah,
and although normally you think, oh, she's not going to be in range because it's an infantry army, she probably will be.
Yeah.
Which I quite like. So I think there's a mortal list of infantry, and maybe with Glutos Skillion as well, because Glutos is 470, but because you're saving so many points if you spam these units as your battle line, as your combat units. You know, if you think like 10 of them, you're now saving 60 points each unit. It quickly adds up. So to give you an example, I've chucked the current points. Not obviously they aren't the current points now, but the old points, I should say, into War Scroll Builder. And this is Glutos, Lord of Pain, Sigvold, 10 Twin Souls, 10 Twin Souls, 10 Painbringers, Tunits of Bliss Barbs. That's already 2,185. But in the new points, that's like 1,855. So it's a huge difference. Yeah. So you're saving so many points, and that's what I would call quite a big army, because that's 111 wounds and you've still got points to spare.
Yeah.
Normally with Slaanesh, you're not getting that, and they're high quality wounds. They're 4-up armor save wounds, and you can chop and change it, and obviously you've still got a 500-point character in there.
Yeah.
So like if you dropped him
He's a resilient boy,
and you put in other things, your army could be massive. In comparison to what it used to be. I should caveat that.
Yeah. One thing to note throughout the army is now that you can get the ward, there's a few things in there that are priced because they come with a ward. So you might feel a bit weird about that when it's elsewhere. Like you are paying for Glutos' ability to have an aftersave. You're not paying for Sigvold's, he's just a bargain now. Yeah, things that have got an aftersave or an ability that could give them an aftersave, you're going to be able to get that anyway. So you kind of
but you get that at the cost of not summoning, and you need to have 18 depravity, whereas Glutos has got a -1 hit bubble as well, right? So
I'm not saying it's not worth it. It's just you're paying like his price is his price for that reason, and you're going to be getting it anyway, let's say halfway through the game if you're playing for it.
Yeah. And I generally think like Painbringers, I'm not sure about Twin Souls. Twin Souls is a bit of a weird one because they don't benefit from the they would if they're veterans, but they've got a 2-inch reach anyway, so like the whole half-inch thing is kind of a bit weird. And they've got a re-rollable hit roll, but you can get that on the command ability anyway. And then you're like, they don't have rend, they don't do mortals, and in the all-out defense world,
they're a weird unit.
It's like I think I'd be better off with Painbringers with +1 damage. I think just spamming Painbringers, because at least they're a 3-up armor save without spending a CP. They can get, and because of the good thing about that as well, although you can, and when I say a 3-up armor save, I mean they get +1 save innately, which you know, is you could then make that a 2-up net. What net best it can only ever be is 3-up.
Yeah.
Against Ren. But what you can do as well is you can freely spend aggressive command points without it affecting their armor save, because you want to save it for all out defense. So, and when if they get a ward, you're getting the Swim Souls ability anyway.
Yes.
And your reach doesn't matter anymore because of the veteran. So maybe you just make them battle line and don't care about Twin Souls.
That's what I was saying about paying for abilities.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. That's exactly it. Like,
yeah,
you can get it otherwise. Bit patience. Turn 3, maybe it ticks up. Having said that, maybe you take the other guys because you want to have 5 guys in a row who can have a ward.
5 guys.
Yeah.
Or they're wave 1, right? They're the front wave. So they go in to generate the depravity and die over time. But they're the ones that go in with the -1 to hit, with the ward save, try and survive, generate depravity, try and hit multiple things to generate more depravity. They lose the unit, but then your Painbringers are buffed and they just go in like a wave of armored amazingness.
And movement 8 is nice. If you want to get your screen in the way anywhere, you know, even around really quick units, then being able to use a 6 and have them go 14 inches. Or 16 if you're quacked up is just ridiculous for infantry.
I'm actually now I'm tempted to get, because I actually think they'd be easy to paint because you can do the whole dry brush silver and then just contrast by numbers. And I
do in my
it'd be it'd look really nice just having like the nice looking mortal stuff, you know. I still think Hellstriders are great as well. So you do TS Hellstriders and then just pour into the walls. I might write a couple lists, see if I can come up with something, but you know, I just bought a Skaven army, so it's fine. It's fine with the new sort of the way I paint stuff with like contrast and quick and dirty. It's not hard to get an army on the table ready. But I think that's a really nice combination of updates, because the White Dwarf with the GHB with the points adjustment, which is obviously it's part of the GHB. Combination together means there's now probably a Slaanesh list that can work, and you still could have access to cool heroes like Shalask or Sinessa, Dexessa, whatever you want to run in there. So I think there's definitely going to be some lists that will probably be in there at B tier.
It'll increase the amount of them for sure. We would like to see their spells drop a little bit, given what's happened with other endless spells. Their spells are quite good. But they haven't dropped that much.
Did they not? I didn't clock it. So
if I bring up, Visage is in new points is 70. It used to be 90. And then you've got the mirror and the wheels. Wheels were 100 and now 80. So another 20-point drop there. And then
the mesmerizing mirror is 80 and it's now 60. So they've all dropped like 20?
All dropped by 20, yeah. So
I mean, it's still a drop. I mean,
it is, and it's a pretty helpful drop for the amount of points that you might have left at building an army. So maybe we'll see them on the table.
They almost feel free now, because you don't have to pay for them essentially, because you've lost points, so you could have the same army and put them in. But obviously, it's quite interesting. I think the new endless spells are really good as well. And like, you know, I think Burning Head will be popular just to like hit your own army with it. So
should we talk about the things that feel like omissions or didn't get dropped as much as would make sense?
Yeah, I mean, we can. I mean, like I think there's a lot of missed opportunity. Don't get me wrong.
The monstrous stuff is where it's the most noticeable for me. Not sure how you feel.
Well, if it was me, I think Bliss Barb Seekers and Slickblade Seekers are well overcosted. Like, by 40, 50 points. They could have been in that drop.
It could be without original book points.
Yeah.
Bliss Barb Seekers
180. 180? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, 180.
I think for me personally, I think Sinessa Dexessa are okay points wise. I would say Dexessa probably should be cheaper than Sinessa.
Yeah,
because Sinessa is the better one.
Very often they get things the wrong way around, like with the.
They always make the combat one more expensive, and you're like, actually, it's not really the case, is it? I would say, I mean, just going from my opinions on it, I think Hellstriders were okay at those points. I don't think they needed to change. They didn't seem expensive. The Epitome's dropped a bit. I think she was 280. She did 245, but I still think she could be sub 200. Like not even.
Yeah, or she was 260 or something. I can check. Yeah, it's given. I think that it was 255. So the Epitome's kind of pointed like its old abilities, which was reroll spells, and it doesn't have so reroll casts and dispels, and it lost the dispels.
If I was going through the book now and I was just repointing it, I'd say Demonette should be like 120. Yeah. I wouldn't touch Bliss Barbs. You could probably drop another 10 off.
Yep.
I don't know enough about the chariots to make an opinion. The Epitome should be sub 200 easy, 190, 180.
The chariots feel okay in Slaanesh, but if you compare them to other stuff, then there's 20 or 30 points on the bigger one potentially.
I just dropped Dexessa to 260, maybe even 240, 250. Like
280 is a lot for a fragile.
The Herald of Slaanesh should be 100. Lord of Pain would be like 120. The Mask would be like probably okay at 130. Shard Speaker I'd probably make 120.
It's a very expensive wizard.
Sigvold at 205 is a bargain. Sinnes is probably okay at 260. The Vice Leader Herald of Slaanesh, I don't know what the difference between that and the other one.
Isn't that the
the Enraptuous is the shooty one, yeah. So
that's
the Vice
demon
is just
on
a normal one. All right, so the Enraptuous I'd leave alone, but the Demon on Foot I'd make 100. So
it's absolutely pointless as a unit at that points value.
Glutos could just be 400. Like it could drop 70 odd points off him. Keeper of Secrets probably okay at 400 now. If you look at comparison to like the Great and Clean one and things like that, I don't think it's that bad. I mean,
not nearly as resilient.
Could be 360, but it's like.
I mean, like look at Be'lakor or something else. 2 casts. Fast. Obviously, Bellacor's got a unique ability. Keeper Secrets can make something fight twice. That can count for unique ability. So I could see 360, 370 or something like that.
Shalaxi should just be like 20 points cheaper than whatever the Keeper is.
And more. It's just worse, especially with us being in an infantry edition. Obviously, that's for the times, but I think she feels even worse in Galatian veteran days.
And like Shalesk, I think is good, but again, 180-ish. I don't think like 195. It doesn't make a huge difference, these sort of characters, because you take one, right?
Adds up across an army though, and they've got a very large suite of unique single characters. So
Bliss Barb Seekers should be like 180, 190 easy. Slick Blade Seekers should be about 180. The Fiends should be like 160 because they're just awful.
The Fiends and the Murder Cows
are okay. The Murder Cows, I think they just did a new War Scroll because you paint them at 80, you still won't take them, right?
Yeah.
Maybe 90 points.
Yeah. Seekers are really good. The thing for me that feels weird about Seekers is they can't be battle line ifed.
They should probably be God Seekers, right? I think they used to be.
But if there was a way to make one unit of them battle line even, that would still be incredible and awesome. Skaven style, I don't know.
Maybe link it into one of the Chariot heroes or something.
Yeah.
So if you're taking Exalted on Chariot, they could be.
That'd be brilliant. I think because they're so quick and they do have a use, they're kind of all right for their points. They could be 10 less or something. But the weirdest thing is that there's not a way to battle line them.
Did the Dread Pageant drop? Because they're basically like a unit of dudes, aren't they? Did they drop as well?
Let's check.
Let's have a quick look.
Scroll builder units. Okay, the Dread Pageant 130. They dropped by 5.
Cool models.
Don't think they are very cool models. No, I don't think 5 points is enough.
It's just like I don't know. Like I mean, obviously, like that's massive drops, but like I still my biggest standouts for me in terms of overcostness are Fiends, Seekers, like Blissbarb Seekers, Slickblade Seekers,
Elite Seekers,
and the Contorted Epitome is probably the main ones. If I could change a couple, those are the ones I would sort out.
Like I wonder, like it's you get this really weird thing in Slaanesh where allies and coalition. You end up with some weird stuff. So like, Epitome can be a bloody murder bomb in Legion of the First Prince.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Legion just ruins everything, right?
Well, so. Legion of the First Prince shouldn't exist in that iteration of the book. It breaks so many things. So I don't know if that's a consideration with this type of stuff. Like the instances of the contorted epitome being taken are going to be higher in non-Slaanesh armies than they are in Slaanesh armies, which is not proportionally, just en masse, because you see Slaanesh so little and you see Legion some, and it's a good option in Legion. So I don't know what that does to stats if they've been used for this, but that is some screwed up stuff.
I think the issue you've got, as soon as an army book's just not got uptake, you don't have stats. So it's like the Bone Splitter syndrome. Like if there's two people playing it, they might have a preference to certain units because they like those units, but you don't really don't have enough people using them to make any meaningful data.
That's very fair.
Whereas like if you're
frequently one of two at events or one of one with them.
If you're in like to use the Warhammer Weekly analogy in the fat middle, something I know a lot about, then those armies, they have enough representation to see those things. Like,
well, clearly. I mean, look at like there was 10 Nurgle armies at the last event we went to, which is more than 10% of the field, and there was 0 Slaanesh. So even if that was 1, you still got as a single instance 10x representation. It's probably higher than that. Because you're very free, like that's ridiculous. Like you got 1,500% more stats on something or whatever. Like that's a lot. That's really helpful for making some decisions.
Yeah, and I think that at least now, I think there is a list with the infantry meta and the ability to take cheap, good combat units, which is what you needed.
Yeah.
You know, I think Painbringers are great. I'm not sure whether you make them battle line or not. I'm leaning to not.
I think both of them are viable, but you'll take different unit sizes and have different purposes for them.
Because I think you'll fill your battle line with Hell Striders and Bliss Barbs.
Yeah.
Stick the Bliss Barbs in the counters free towards objectives, and then you stick the Painbringers and Twin Souls in Bounty Hunters and don't make them battle line.
But it's nice to have the option, like Slaanesh is one of those armies, kind of like Deepkin, where going one drop is a very solid idea for its own protection. And being able to just put 5 guys in front and be like, you know, you can munch on them if you want. We're going to get some depravity on the go. Maybe that gives me a cheeky pile in with something else, or another attack because of the keepers behind them, or something like that. Them not costing a ridiculous amount suddenly makes that feel okay if you might lose them, and being able to turn up with Slaanesh where you're not pooping yourself about your opponent alphaing you, that's a nice feeling. It's a very nice feeling.
Yeah, I mean, like you're
rallying back on a 5,
and you can still take the Lord of Pain for the reroll hit ability because he just don't make him a general. You could have a different general, have a Keeper of Secrets general.
Don't make him a general. Put Arcane Toe on him, because then he'll feel like he's all right for his points, and off you pop.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good endless spells out there that can do damage to your own army, which then allows you to get your depravity cooking. So I definitely think there'll be a list there. I mean, obviously, you haven't written a list. What the example of just chucking stuff in was just to show you the difference. Not saying that's a good list.
It's an old Sigvold's worth of points worth of difference, which is a big chunk.
And you still got obviously the ability to take invaders and all that other stuff, so you can still take lurid haze, right? It's still a thing.
Yeah.
So you still got your ambushing. So
be taking 10 Painbringers off the table to chunk into the side of someone if you make your charge with the new cogs, which you could.
New cogs is nuts, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous for this point. Better and cheaper. Let's go.
Yay. But yeah, so quite good if you're into your Slaanesh. It should be exciting for you. I still think there's a long way to go before the book becomes what I would call really interesting and competitive. But if you've been sticking with Slaanesh this long, well done. And maybe there's something here that allows you to revisit your army a little bit and try and get some
chat if you've been sticking. Let us know a comment if you have legit stuck with them, because my god, that is commendable or incredibly stubborn if someone's managed to do that. Props to you.
Yeah, and let us know what you think in terms of the changes and if you like them. If you've got any list ideas now based on these, we're super interested to see, and maybe it's something that we can revisit as a list tech later on and do a Slaanesh aftermath. Just once we've seen the impact of this, do we actually start seeing them at events, which would be nice.
Yeah, they would get someone on if they ran them and done well with them.
And I think what I'd hope that would do, that would send a signal to the studio what the impact of these changes can be for the game. Because like if you've got a range of models you're not selling, an army that's not represented,
happy players and making money is often the same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. An easy update like this, change the points on a PDF. It literally there's no cost other than someone sat around for an afternoon and probably quite obvious what you need to do. Release that PDF. Suddenly you sell more models, more people play that army, people are happier.
One of the most beautiful ranges that's out there.
Gets more diverse, which we like, because the more diversity in competitive play, the less skewed you can make your army. Because, you know, I would say, without going into the updates, the new changes, battlescroll, whatever it is, are great, and they really do address some of the issues in the game. It's a really well thought out. I mean, I would say that because I've been part of it, but you know, it's I think it's a really good step in the right direction. So hopefully more of that. How you feel about the handbook is another issue, but I would say that if you've got Slaanesh and you like the Mortals, you should be excited. So
your army just got cheaper. It should be, you know, that's better than nothing. Just that.
Cheaper, stronger, faster. That's how it works, isn't it? As long as you hold on to that depravity. So, but anyway, that's it. That's a Slaanesh update. So hopefully that's given some people ideas. Thanks very much for watching. Like the video if you like it, and leave a comment below, and join the Discord to have more discussions about your lovely S&M Chaos Warriors.
Both now. Might be both.
Bit of both. And Sigvold is a bargain, so
yes, absolutely.
Get one for your ally pool, so I'd say.
Good insights to darkness.
Any army, something that gets through wards is great, especially with the prevalence of Nurgle. So cool. All right. Thanks for watching. Catch you all in the next one.
Guys. Catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.